We've got Colin Gray Phil Irving coming up now. I'm going to have a conversation about skills you need to get into cyber security. So Colin, Phil are two senior academics from Sunderland University.
Okay, so hopefully you can see this. This is myself, Phil Irving. I've been teaching at the university for quite some time in the network security, cyber security, and I suppose telecom security as well, because that's kind of an area that is quite commonly overlooked. And this is my colleague Colin, who will introduce himself shortly, I'm guessing. Just really, I was going to give our definition, or my definition, I suppose, of cybersecurity. But the British National Cybersecurity Centre defines cybersecurity as the protection of devices, services, and networks, and the information upon them from theft or damage. I think it's quite interesting that actually misses out people altogether, and it isn't true. They do actually defend from people. I like to sort of think of it in Harry Potter terms, which is defense against the dark arts. And that's, as you've just heard, is really what we are trying to do. So it's tools and techniques to enhance system security design. We need to know what the bad guys are up to, and girls. And in that case, we can hopefully put an end to it, or we can certainly stop the vast majority of attacks coming through. We need to learn from what's happening. We will always have breaches, I guess, but if we can learn from what's happening, then we can use that knowledge to identify potential attacks and hopefully put into place some kind of preventative measures. But we can only be sure that our preventative measures are actually working if we can use appropriate tools that the bad guys and girls are up to in order to really to check that our systems work and that we are defending correctly against them. As Phil has mentioned, there are quite a number of vacancies worldwide in terms of cybersecurity, and I certainly in terms of Colin and I'm more involved with the networking side of cybersecurity, and Colin is more involved with the digital forensics side. Doesn't mean that our paths don't cross, but I think it's probably fair to say that Colin is more at kind of the systems level, so the PC level, the actual device level that connects to the system, certainly in terms of the digital forensics, where myself, it's kind of looking at the networking kit to try and find out where the breach occurred, how it occurred, and then try and plug those gaps. So from my perspective, then really one of the things that's needed to get into the cybersecurity networking world is an understanding of networks. So we still see lots of this now, unsecured wireless connections. We see people just, it's Wi-Fi, will connect to it. They don't necessarily care who is snooping on that wireless connection. They don't care about what is being set up, how robust the security mechanisms are. So it's kind of knowing the network in order to be able to assess the vulnerabilities. So there's a few ways that you can do this. There is probably the most widely known is Cisco certified network associate, which will provide you with the fundamental skills. It's something that we do offer at the university. You can also take this externally as an industry qualification. It leads on to other things. So you probably need to increase your cyber skills in the area. And Cisco now have a CCNA security, which is kind of looking at the security aspects. Brand new to the party, just launched this year, is Cisco's Cyber Operations. And this is particularly aimed at sort of the investigation side of things. So it's, again, something, both of these are something that we can offer, but the cyber operations is really about working your way through. So looking at the network in particular, what the kinds of vulnerabilities are, what the recommendations are to plug those vulnerabilities. And then it culminates with an examination really at the end of it, which is a virtual machine that has been hacked. So you're actually doing your forensics on that. So you're working your way through identifying what the attack was, how it started, where it happened, that kind of thing. There are obviously other alternatives. So there is the CISSP, Information Security Specialist, is another one. And then, as Alistair has already mentioned, then we have both degrees and MSCs, which have got the cybersecurity aspect in. I'm going to jump forward and then I'll hand over to Colin. So there are lots of different things that we cover. So I'm just going to pick on point 4. So from our side of it, it's network and communications. So it's fundamentals, security challenges, the standards that you need to employ. Colin will cover this, but its PCI are actually quite detailed in what you have to do to set up a network, which is great. In the days that we used to be able to go to outside events and gigs and that kind of thing, people quite readily handed over their credit card to pay for goods at stalls, etc. But that needs to be back-ended by some kind of network, and that needs to be secure. Some of these events are in places where cellular coverage is limited, so you're then using Wi-Fi to back-end it, and we need to make sure that that's secured. Point 6, just in case you can't see my mouse. So there is lots on network security. We've all heard firewalls, but firewalls are they're still there, but they are being sort of replaced, superseded by things like security appliances. And security appliances are devices that are configurable against attacks. So they actually get an automatic update through a secure link from threat centers such as Cisco's Talos. And what these devices do, for example, is they will already know of an attack. So if we think about an attack where we attempt to bring down a web server through just exhausting its memory, these devices sit in between the web server and the internet, and it's them that actually respond to the attackers. And when the attackers don't complete their connection, then these devices just simply flush their cache and the attack is thwarted so that the devices behind there can actually sit securely. Intrusion prevention and detection systems, CM, security information and event management. There is a lot going on in this area. Obviously, you could specialize in either of the areas. And we also, as part of the networking side, point 8, we're looking at security risks, analyzing the risks, what can happen, and then really trying to manage down those risks. So I apologize, I seem to be saying a lot, but there is a lot going on in the area. But we get people from a wide variety of backgrounds. So on our courses, we've got people from the banking sector, we've got people who are ex-military, etc. And and they all bring their own skills to the party, because one of the things that we can teach them is the cyber security aspects. But if they've got domain specific knowledge, then that is also incredibly useful. So if anybody's interested in getting into the area, then I would say, come and talk, and don't just abandon your past and think, well, this is it. I've got to move into a whole new skill set. Bring your existing skills with you and then enhance them with what is available to you, my network security digital forensics. And looking at my clock, I'm at exactly 10 minutes, and I said to Colin I would do it in 10 minutes. So I'm going to back off now until there are questions and hand over to Colin.
Thank you, Phil. Phil, obviously that's on your screen. Do you want to leave it that you'll do the slides, Phil, and I'll talk?
Whatever you want to do, Colin. What works for you?
Well, that's fine. As long as people can hear me, then I'll just refer to the slides and talk about it.
I'll be your assistant.
Good on you. I'll say go. Anyway, just a little bit of my background. I served as a police officer for 30 years, were mainly involved in investigations because I was on CID, so I was a detective. Then when the high-tech crime unit, or as it was then, the computer crime unit was set up in 1996 in Northumbria Police, I went from the fraud squad into that, and then subsequently went on this massive learning curve, finding out, I don't think I even knew what Windows was when I first went on to the high-tech, from the fraud squad. So anyway, I then became part of the high-tech crime unit, which started off at the time, there was two of us. The Northumbria Police high-tech crime unit, of course, you've got CCTV now, you've got mobile phone forensics, you've got computer forensics. So you've got a whole raft of different areas of expertise. And I think at the last count, there was something like 26 people within Northumbria Police. So when I retired from the police, I then went into the commercial world. I became a consultant where I did consultancy work. And that involved me in what I'll talk about a little bit in more detail, e-disclosure, and also the payment card industry, and then subsequently mobile phone investigations. So I did work with defense lawyers, with prosecution, with private clients who come where they have a problem, say that they've had a compromise of some description. So when I teach, I've been at Sunderland now, it's coming up to 2 years now on the digital forensics and cybersecurity course. When I came on board, I kind of looked at, okay, then we'll teach, and I've got the background in it, I'll teach the students the different levels of digital forensics. In case you think to yourself, well, what is digital forensics about? It's about taking data and being able to analyze that data and then report on it. So you have to process the data, and then we teach students that come in at Sunderland University on the best practice. So how you actually seize data, how you process it, how you analyze it, and then how you present that, whether that be to a court or to a client. That court could be the criminal court or the civil court. So digital forensics looks at data at a very basic level and how you analyze it. So your knowledge base before coming on to a digital forensic degree course at Sunderland could be fairly basic. You don't have to be massively IT illiterate, because that's what the course does. It takes you from the basic level of understanding what, for example, what the registry is within the Windows operating system, what it does, how to recover data, how to utilize up-to-date software, because at the university we have all the up-to-date software like NCASE, Axiom, all of these are investigative tools. We also do the mobile phones, but I'll talk about that in a little more detail when you see on the slide there, you see down to Celebrite. So, and looking at the relationship between digital forensics and cybersecurity, I know this from personal experience. Digital forensics gave me a great grounding to then go in and work within assorted fields where I know that there's employment there. So when we're looking at students, what I like to do is to say, look, okay, then we will do the digital forensics. We'll look at cybersecurity. We'll talk about passwords, general cybersecurity. But then I'll also introduce you to the fact that you want to become an expert in your field, and you may well want to diverse from that straightforward digital forensics, which there is work in the digital forensics world, but you may want to expand on that and go into e-disclosure or investigative work within the payment card industry, or indeed look more at mobile devices and their examination and what their capabilities are. Okay, Phil? You hear me, Phil? Just the next slide.
I can. I'm just trying to get it to move on, but my mouse had gone to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, that is just, Phil put that before, that's just a general overview of the topics. I mean, I cover things like cybersecurity threats because I've been actively involved in investigations where there were security breaches, both in the civil and criminal world. Two-factor authentication and the different types of malware. Okay, Phil? Listen, I might add, as Phil mentioned before, there's 10 minutes for this, so I'm just trying to give an overview of where I see the employability is from a digital forensic cybersecurity. So for those of you who have not come across e-disclosure before, or e-discovery, it's e-discovery depending on which side of the Atlantic you're on. The Americans tend to call it e-discovery. So what it's about is taking a large amount of data. I mean, there's been an exponential growth in data, and I can give an example of this. I remember doing a case with a legal firm where they got a court order, and then they had to investigate emails within a particular company, and there was 21 employees' emails. Well, that amounted to 280,000 emails, which were 2 terabytes in size. Therein gives an indication of where the problem lies when you're dealing with investigations, and it's just the sheer volume of data. What e-disclosure does, it takes that data and then it processes it, and we reduce it down by means of taking out duplication, for example, or introducing threading into the emails so that you're not getting separate emails, you're just seeing the one link, the one thread of emails. And then, I mean, in my case, I use the platform Relativity platform, and I mean, there's other products out there. Relativity, it's expensive, but it is extremely efficient in what it does. What Relativity do, it will process that initial amount of data that you have. It will then do all the work that I mentioned there before, and from that you can then, say for example, pass it on to a legal firm who will then be able to view the data in a more concise way, in as much as you've reduced and taken out all the bits and pieces that really have no concern to them. They can then go ahead and bookmark data that they like. They can redact data. They can blank it out if they so wish. And from that, come back to you, and you can then produce reports within the software. The practical means by which this is done, you put it on the internet. It's on a secure platform. The lawyer then gets access to that. They can then look at the data that you're producing for them. They may be very specific. For example, they may say, well, we only want to look at data between these 2 dates. So you can filter everything else out and be very specific, and then give them the opportunity of viewing that data. So e-disclosure, e-discovery, very, very big in the legal world. when I was doing the consultancy work, I did a lot of work in e-disclosure. I did work for the within government. I did work for the Scottish Parliament, and a lot of private clients. How does this correspond to digital forensics? Firstly, I'll give you an instance. It helped me immensely when it came to doing e-disclosure, because digital forensics is about analyzing data. E-disclosure takes it one step further and actually displaying that data. An instance where I introduced both digital forensics and e-disclosure was during a case. E-disclosure, very expensive to host the data on the internet, on a secure server. So what we did is we used our digital forensic skills to initially do some keyword searches, find data, reduce the data that way, and then utilize the e-disclosure to make it available to the client. So an indication of where there is a crossover. Next one, thanks, Phil. I suspect many people will not have heard of the payment card industry before. What the payment card industry, it was set up by 6 of the big credit cards, you know, Diners Club, Barclaycard, MasterCard. And basically what they wanted to do is look at the security, look at the cyber threats that are being presented, and in the main, it's the merchants' websites are compromised. And from that compromise, customers' personal data is stolen, specifically personal data as in credit card data. For example, if you imagine an attack came from South Korea, where they uploaded via email, they uploaded a JPEG, a picture, onto the merchant's website. And within that picture, it replicated another picture that was on the website already. Within that picture, there was just coding. And what that coding did was just sat there and collect customers' credit card numbers, any personal details, and then it would email it back out to South Korea, where the attack was originated from. So what the payment card industry does is it sets up rules and regulations, basically. So if you were a merchant, say you were running a small business, and your website was compromised and payment card data was released, they then require you to have a PFI, a payment forensic investigation. Herein lies the digital forensics in the background. So you go to a company that's registered with the payment card industry, digital forensics. You go to the company and they will say, okay, then the PCI require you to have an investigation and it will cost you X amount of money. If you don't do it, then the payment card industry, all they'll do is withdraw the facility of payment cards onto your site. So they kind of, for want of a better description, they kind of have you over the barrel that you have to have it done. So you have this investigation, you identify where the back door was, you identify what the compromise was, and you patch that compromise. After that, you then have to have a vulnerability test done on your site. Again, additional expense. So what I'm saying to you is that there's a lot of areas within the payment card industry, but the bottom line for the merchant is it costs you money. So how do you do to prevent that? You look at how you secure your sites, you look at the cyber security threats that are ongoing, you make sure you patch your website, and you make sure you're up to date with it. So that's the a very basic overview. Everyone I've ever come across within the payment card industry has done a degree course in digital forensics prior to being employed. So this isn't, when we're talking about the UK, this is worldwide. There's different, they have Europe, then you've got Asia, Australia, America, all with their own payment card industries. So the company that I was consulting for, we were one of the 16 in the UK authorized forensic investigators, and we used to conduct these investigations. Great. Was that my last slide, Phil? I'm trying to not having them below.
Yeah, it was.
It was, okay. Finally, at the beginning, I touched on Celebrate. What the university did was I looked at what we'd done in the past and how we could improve, how we could bring more employable skills to the course. One of those is we entered into an academic partnership with Celebrate. There's Celebrate and XRY are the two leading mobile phone, that's forensics or tablets or any sort of device like that. They're one of the leaders in the one of the leaders in the world of mobile phones. So we introduced this academic partnership, and we now offer industry recognized certification for Celebrate. So if you want to know any more about that, you can chat to me about it during the panel. If you want to know more about e-disclosure or the payment card industry, then I'll be there on the panel later on.
That was great, Phil. That was great, Colin. Thank you very much. And what's clear to me from already for the very few speakers we've had so far is what a diverse background we've come from. You know, police, law, all sorts of interest. And it's people skills that seem to be as relevant as technical skills. So
yeah, I mean, I don't come from an academic background. You know, it's an investigative background. So I've dealt with, you know, private clients and as well as, you know, have expertise in the criminal world. So another thing I never mentioned, you know, we talk about the courts and how to present in court to students, because that is a part of the area they're going into.
Excellent. Right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen.